let's get started here. First off, just thanks for showing up today. I am excited. I kind of realized in putting together this webinar that we haven't really talked about holacracy consulting as such very often or very frequently. And there are some very, very interesting stories out there in the ecosystem from people kind of on the front lines doing this work. And so that was kind of part of the inspiration behind this webinar, was just to share these stories with you and explain in a bit more of a kind of structured manner exactly the steps that it could take to get there if you choose to pursue that as a path. So I know you guys are kind of have a variety of experience here. And hopefully this will be useful for all of you at whatever stage of your own holacracy journey you're at. So my name is Laura. I'm a partner with Holacracy One. I've been with Holacracy One for about 4 years, and I've held roles in the ecosystem and licensing program and coaching and in marketing and outreach. So kind of all over the place. But in my roles, I was realizing that there's some information here that we can share that has not yet been talked about as much as I was hoping. So that's where I'm coming from here. We have Siobhan Searle with us. She is filling a lot of licensing and certification support roles at Holacracy One. And we have Hans van Veen. And he is a coach with Energized and has been with them for what, 4 or 5 years, Hans?
Yeah, about 5 years almost, yes. Yeah.
And so he's going to share a little bit about his story with us, why he decided to go on this path, and then how it's been for him. So really, that's all that I have to say by way of introduction. Hans, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about who you are, how you got started.
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, so first of all, trying to connect and sit a bit. So here, looking at my screen and see a lot of participants. So I'm very excited to share some things that I experienced, and I'm also hoping that you guys can, if you have any questions or want to ask me anything, just please feel free. So we can get some interaction. Yeah, I can start with sharing. I'm Hans. I'm 46 years old. I'm living in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Yeah, I'm a self-organization coach. Energized is a company, or we are with 8 partners. We're focused on self-organization coaching with a big emphasis on holacracy. And I guess that has to do a lot also with 2 of the founders, Diederik Jansen and Koen Bunders, who founded Energized in 2015. So the 1st of January, basically. So that means on the 1st of January, we are celebrating our 5th anniversary. So that's what we are looking forward to. And I guess that's also when my journey with holacracy also really started. So end 2014, begin 2015, and also that's when Energized was founded, basically. So a little bit about myself. I shared I'm 46 years old. I'm married, got two children. At this moment they're downstairs. I'm at home right now. I had the pleasure to work from home today. But I found a quiet room over here to connect with you and to just talk about this subject. Yeah, really. How do you and when do you choose this path? At least how did it happen for me? So yeah, looking forward to sharing some things on that. Yeah.
Right. So how did you choose this path?
Yeah. Okay. So I think in 2008 I started being independent on my own. So independent entrepreneur. And that was really the moment for me that I did a lot of consulting and training work, basically. So big change projects. I did it mostly for bigger corporates. And yeah, what I did, I had the first, I think about 8 years. I felt freedom, did a lot of great consultancy and training jobs till I think about in the beginning of 2014, though everything was fine, I felt really like something was missing. So what happens when you train and coach a lot, you sort of create a small system, a sort of safe system where you are able to learn with each other and to inspire people. And as long as you are in a safe environment, that's nice, and that gives you energy. At least it gives me energy. But what happened more and more was that I tried to learn with people and coach people. And as soon as they got out of this safe environment again, just got back to the working place, it all kind of fell apart. It fell apart because of the hierarchy.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? Yeah, so far.
Well, and so what were the kinds of things that you were training? This is before you were doing Holacracy, right?
Yeah. So in Big Change Project, basically, I took it all the way. So from really the basics and working with the systems, what kind of systems they had to handle on the workplace, but also really the soft skill part.
I see.
So how does change work? How does influence work? Yeah, and that, especially that last part got bigger and bigger. So how do I get things done? And not only for myself, but also in my environment. And how can I invite others also to change? And independent of what my hierarchy is, whether I was a manager or just a professional working on this in this bigger company. So that was really something which got back. And I think the last 3-4 years, I also in my own development, I really focused on that part. So how can I influence people? How can I get things done? And that is really also the people power politics part, basically. Yeah, and basically what happened to me personally, I got kind of sick of it, and I didn't really enjoy it, let alone teach that to other people. It was kind of, I got to this wall. It ended for me there. So yeah, and every time you are in this learning curve and these ups and these downs, so I was really also a sucker for structure. So I already liked working in Scrum. I already liked working with getting things done. That's really in my personal system also. Really this basic ground layer you need. And on top of that, you can work and you can create. So what happened, I think, in 2014, I read some articles which were written by Ruben Timmerman of Springest. Mm-hmm. I knew Ruben from the past. I've worked with him and I admired him. So the first thing for me was, Ruben says there's something exciting, so it should be exciting. So that was really impulsive, basically. So that was the first time I read about Holacracy. And what happened then in 2014, I had the opportunity to organize a big event. And I thought, hey, let's get someone in to tell about Holacracy because it sounds interesting. It was some sort of a win-win, a win for me, but also for the company I worked in. And then I met Koen Bunders of Energized, and he gave a taster in this big theater. And basically what happened, I was blown away. That what really happened. There were a lot of people who were very critical. So the tendency in the room in the theater was totally different from my experience because I was really touched at that moment and really inspired. Yeah.
And what touched you?
Yeah, so during this taster, I got in a simulation. I don't know if some of you who are listening already did a taster. So there's this simulation of this governance meeting. It was a long time ago, but what really touched me was really the attention you really had for each point, and that you had attention for everybody in the circles who was there. I was used of being in these meetings where there was no structure, where all the same people were talking, they were talking too much, or people who were not heard. Well, the basic typical things which go on in meetings. Right. And during that simulation, I really experienced this is really what I was looking for, this quiet space where you really work focused with each other.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the structure, it sounds like, and the attention that was placed on each role or on each person.
Yeah. So everybody was heard basically, and there was room, and there was room for everybody to speak and to listen. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, so you did a taster, you got blown away.
yeah, I got blown away. So I got a beer afterwards with Koen. I met Koen,
Pardon step.
and yeah, Koen and we had a click immediately. And I remember that Koen said this one thing to me. That was drinking that beer afterwards, and he said, "Hey Hans, we got to work together." So, and I was enthusiastic, of course, and he told me, "Hans, but I'm going to tell you one thing. Once you are doing this and you start working this way, you never want to do anything else." And that's what he said to me. And he was right afterwards. So that was really, for me, that was really an important step in my career, basically. So yeah, what happened? I went home, and because I'm independent, I'm free to make my choices. So so I thought, oh, let's just take the next step. I'm not really know where I'm going, but let's take the next step and let's do that practitioner training. Mm-hmm. So basically 2 months or 3 months afterwards, there was the practitioner training. It was in December 2014, I think, in Amsterdam. And basically, I went there with the same mindset. Okay, if I come out of this training even more enthusiastic than I am, then I'm going to proceed, whatever happens.
Yes. And
that happened. It was a transformative training for me. It only it confirmed what I already hoped to find, basically. But what I also learned during this practitioner training, that it was not going to be easy for me. Moreover, it was going to be very hard for me. And that was because there was one part in the training where Brian Robertson, the trainer, he asked all the participants, I guess we were with about 30 people in the training, and he asked, so who of you guys are trained trainers and facilitators? So I raised my hand, of course, because that's what I do, and I did. And he said, okay, you are getting the hardest time ever trying to learn this, because you have to unlearn so many things. Yeah, that was true also, because as a facilitator, or the old facilitator, like I call it, I'm always taking care of people. So I want to go towards a specific goal, or I want to learn something with people, and then also always sensitive to, are people still there? Are they not leaving? Where do I have to give some extra attention? It was always really hard work, keeping people in this learning mode. And in the first time doing Holacracy, and especially facilitating, you must immediately stop doing that and just trust the system. And that was very hard for me. So that was also really the part, which was the most difficult part for me in this whole process.
Right, so that makes sense, because in your previous work, you're taking care of people, and Holacracy is basically the exact opposite.
Exactly. Take care of take care of yourself, and trust that other people can also take care of themselves. And it was hard for me to believe that. Basically, yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So so I did the practitioner training, and then talked to Koen and Diederik, met them. They were working with Energized, and I was blessed to have the opportunity that they said, "Hey Hans, let's try this. If you really want to learn this, you have to do your bit, but we can help you." So then I basically reserved half of my time to really learn doing this, because that's an investment in the beginning. So I was able to take care of me and my family by doing about 2 or 2.5 days other things to earn some money for my family. And the other half was really to invest in this. So then I did my first implementation, start my certification, and I was coached a lot, especially by Koen Bunders, who invested in me basically also, because he had to join me doing this. And then gradually, actually after that, gradually I did more and more work, Holacracy-based work. And I think also in 2015, I earned my certifications. So that helped me on also starting to do implementations on my own, which is another next step then. So that's basically what happened between 2014 and 2015. Yeah, we're now almost 2019.
Right.
Yeah, and basically half of my time I'm doing Holacracy implementations, and the other half I'm doing more self-organization, not really Holacracy only, but a lot of times inspired by Holacracy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so how's it been for you to be doing implementations? I mean, first off, in the beginning by yourself, and now, like, 4 years later.
Yeah, besides the hard work and the learning curve, which really gave me energy, because that's what in really getting the hang of this. Hey,
Yes.
I can learn this, because there really in the beginning I had doubts. Can I really learn this, or am I completely on the other kind of the spectrum? So that really was enjoyable, that I learned, no, I can learn this. And on top of that, all the other skills I learned before Holacracy later paid off also, because my coaching skills, I did not have to unlearn them, but somehow I really had to make a pause and really focus on really this Holacracy thing only, because I really needed all my attention and energy to really start learning this. And after that, I could release my old skills again, and really develop my own coaching skills in doing this. Yeah, so what I really like about doing this Holacracy implementation work is really that I feel that all the coaching which comes on top of Holacracy, so in explaining why are the rules there, and the rules are always there for a reason, on which principles is it based, how do they work, and what does this mean for you? So you really have a really strong basis to talk about personal development, organization development. It's the best platform I ever had to coach on and to learn upon. And I really feel that now every day, because I'm also in other companies where I do not work with Holacracy. And I still feel the difference in working with Holacracy and coach upon Holacracy, where I really feel a lot of more energy. It makes more sense to me. And in the other environments, it's somehow more difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then still I hear Koen telling me, hey Koen, hey Hans, once you start doing this, you never want to do anything else. So that still keeps reminding me, which makes still sense to me. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Was he right?
he was right. So if I had a choice right now, so between doing what I do now, this 50-50, and being able to do 100% Holacracy coaching, I would prefer 100% Holacracy coaching. And because we've developed now a lot of on top of that with energizers, so there's a lot of development also within the Holacracy community. But yeah, if I had a choice, I would choose 100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And then, what have been some of the biggest challenges for you in doing Holacracy coaching?
Yeah, let's step into what I find most challenging right now. Yeah, I think I really feel blessed that I'm part of a system, an energized system, and also the ecosystem behind it. Because if I were to do this really on my own, as Hans, maybe as independent professional Hans, I don't know if I would be able to do that. Because every time when I coach, there are so many new questions, so many new insights, and basically 90% I can feel I can really do on my own. But for 10%, I need my peers. I need someone to talk to, or to say, just this happens. And I talked to a client, and it was about rep links, and so they could not really find the use of the rep links. How do you coach on that? And what happened? And is it allowed or not? All these kind of questions.
Uh-huh.
So the hard part is also the nice part, because the hard part is I'm not able to do anything on my own, and that's also the nice part. that I have peers in my environment who I can consult, and also in the community. Yeah.
That makes sense. And how many of you are there at Energized?
We're with 8 right now, 8 partners. So there's 1 partner in Poland, and we're 7 active partners in the Netherlands. We have 6 certified coaches,
Gotcha.
and two persons with other roles, and more with more emphasis on another methodology we use besides Holacracy, and that's more on the people part, SCT.
Mm-hmm.
So we really now have a partner who's really focusing on that part, and it really helps us. Yeah.
Right then. Well, I mean, this sort of brings me to my next question, which is, what are some of the highlights for you of doing this work? And maybe it's similar to what you said as the peer learning, but I'm curious if that brings up anything else for you.
Yeah, I guess the first highlight, the biggest highlight I already shared. Really feeling that it's such a powerful platform it's really a learning platform, and basically that's what I was looking for before coming in here. So how can I find a platform where people can learn, and it's not concentrated around me. So when I'm not there, there's a system where people can take care of themselves and learn. So I'm just part of the system, and if I step out, the system goes on. So that's what really is the most exciting part for me. And the second part is really the joy I get from working with the energizers. And what I didn't share in my journey was, it wasn't actually my first goal to be an Holacracy coach or an Holacracy consultant. I first wanted to do this myself. I wanted to work with Holacracy. I wanted to be part of an organization which works with Holacracy. Mm-hmm. And because I'm really excited about that, I'm really excited to also learn other people's to do it. That's basically how it works. So, and I guess that goes for everybody. Everything we do with Energized, we feel we are a experimental laboratory. So we want to first do things, experiment it ourselves. And if we're excited about something, then we feel free enough to also be enthusiastic towards other people about it. Hey, maybe you should try it. And maybe also share what we like or don't like, or what we've learned, or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, we were talking earlier about the forum. It's one of the most exciting things for me too, and lots of people in the ecosystem get together. It's like the ideas that pop out.
Yeah.
Someone asked in the chat, Hans, if your choice is to do Holacracy full time, what's holding you back?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the simple answer is, at this moment, there is not enough work for all energizers to do this 100%. So what we need to do, we need to boost up our sales power, basically, and do this more. And we're working very hard on that. So yeah, that's a very practical answer to your question. So the wish is there, and for now, it's not enough to do this 100%. I hope this answered your question, Diane.
Makes sense. And another question came through, actually. It said, you mentioned the people part. How much of what a Holacracy consultant does is addressing human systems / relationships around this organizational system?
So let me try to comprehend really what, can you help me rephrase the question again?
I was thinking, how much of what you're doing is addressing the people systems, maybe versus the organizational systems, or people's relationships to the organizational system?
So maybe let's answer this question in both twice. So first, within Energized, I would say it's really both. They are very balanced. So I guess that's also because of the learning path we got through in this 5 to 6 years. So really, in the first time, we really focused on Holacracy and Holacracy only, and the people part, we took care of it, but maybe not really consciously, or we had not figured out how to do that yet. So we kind of added that part later. And I guess if you would see us work, you would really see a very good balance in it. So when are we in organization space, and when we are in organization space, we talk holacracy, we talk accountabilities, we talk policies, we talk next actions, we talk projects. So how does it work? And we're really quick at that. And we also are very easy to go to the people part. And what does this mean on the people part? Do we have to fix something there? Do we have to subgroup about something? Do we need to do so? So there's a very good balance there. The second perspective is more when we are at clients. Basically, we always come in for holacracy. So that's the question. So in the first period, especially learning the mechanics, but also the next parts, the first year, 1.5 year, we really focus on holacracy, and then we work tension-based. And what happens with most companies we work with, then they start also ask these other questions. Hey, how do we start rebuilding our rewarding system? How can we work with the people system? So it kind of happens afterwards. So, and if you look at our client base, so it's now also more balanced. So there's a lot of holacracy work only, but also we try to support clients who already work with holacracy for a longer time and really are there. Hey, and how can we fit it into our people and our legal system, and how does this all work together? So that's the evolution basically which is going on. So I hope this answered the question.
Yeah, and we'll have time at the end for more questions. So feel free to put your questions into the Q&A box. There's a little Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And we have time to ask more, but yeah. Yes, actually we'll probably move on to the next part shortly, but you were going to say, Hans?
Yeah, maybe there's one thing. So and if you are listening to me, I'm really personally enthusiastic about this work and why I did it. So that's really the part I'd like to share. And I also like to share the part which I found really hard in this, in learning this. And so you could say the rewards, but also what was hard for me is that, it took me a lot of investment to learn this, not only in time, but also in, and I guess you will share a little bit about this more in the certifications and how to maintain your certifications. And that was also really hard. So there were also some moments in learning this and really thinking, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go all the way? Is it worth it? So it was not all happy. It was all, there were also moments where it really was hard in thinking, okay, do I really want to proceed with this? So that's also really the part which was there.
And what got you out of those moments? How did you get through them?
Just really reflecting and really be true to yourself and talk to your peers and see, okay, does it still make sense? And then just got myself up again and moved on again. So one of the things, I did not pass the first time for my certification. So the first assessment. This is not really nice to hear that you didn't pass your assessment, and you really start doubting yourself. And you get angry and you want to blame people, you want to blame H1, you want to blame everybody. So there's a lot going on there. So I've also experienced that, but I've worked through it and try to see, okay, it's a learning opportunity and I'm going to do it again. And then I'm going to show that I can do it. Yeah. So
yay for you for getting through it. I am in the middle of my journey and having these doubts. Yeah. Sometimes like, what am I doing and why does this make sense? And I took the assessment, the certification, and I think last year and didn't get the score that I wanted and needed. And it's
harsh, yeah.
But the learning was awesome.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
definitely.
yeah, but it is basically if you want to grow to Holacracy coach, it is a path. You have to invest in learning. So that's also that's a reality, and it's really something you need to want to do. Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Hans. This is kind of a perfect segue into the next part, which is, what does that investment into learning look like? How do you get the certifications, and how do you start actually doing this professionally? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about the pathway kind of to get to the point where Hans is at now. And then Siobhan is going to talk to you about the details of what that looks like and how to actually start. So, I mean, in essence, the way that you're going to start this journey really depends on where you're at now. So, how do you start? Oftentimes people are excited, they're considering, they want to explore this really, and this kind of maps with Hans's story as well. The first step to really get an understanding of what's going on here is to take practitioner training. And that will give you a sense of, do you actually want to do this? Do you actually want to pursue this or not? After that, and this also maps with Hans's story, find opportunities to practice. And if you're in contact with people that are practicing Holacracy, or if you're beginning to work with people that are practicing Holacracy, or if you're in an organization that's already practicing Holacracy, this can be relatively straightforward. You just offer to facilitate meetings. Maybe you offer to help train new hires, teach people how this actually works. But if you're in a situation where maybe you're a consultant or you're freelance and you don't have an organization or a large peer group that's already practicing Holacracy, this can be more challenging. And so there are various ways to go and find practice, pitch yourself for practice, which we'll talk about shortly. But basically, once you've gotten as much practice as possible, one very useful learning step, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but one of the most useful learning steps that I've found so far is the coach training. This is basically where it's a 4-day training where you're learning. The practitioner training teaches you the mechanics. The coach training is really teaching you how to convey the paradigm shift that's underneath Holacracy. So it's not only how to explain the rules, but how to explain the why behind the rules. Not only practicing facilitation, but practicing the difficult elements of facilitation, and that can also include knowing when to stick to the rules and when not to. You'll practice also very implementation specific skills where you might be discussing potential adoptions with the mock executive team, or practicing talking to the leadership team and answering their questions after an adoption. You could practice answering the types of questions that the actual team will be asking you during their first days of practice. So there's a lot of simulation, a lot of role play, and it kind of helps. For example, when I took the facilitation assessment, I had a lot of theoretical knowledge, but not that much practice. And so what happened under the stress of this test situation, I didn't have the neural pathways built, like the pathways of actual experience, what to do in X, Y, and Z scenario, to carry me through these moments of stress. And so this is the kind of thing that practice and simulation is super, super, super helpful for. So I found these parts of the training super helpful. Also, for those who are going to want to do broader implementations, it gives you a roadmap of the different Holacracy practice phases, a lot of opportunities for peer coaching again, and then some conversation around habit and behavior shift. Plus, you get real-time feedback from lots of very experienced coaches. So, is that enough to pass the assessments? Probably not. It's generally a combination of training and practice. I found that can help get you through that spot. So again, practice is important. How do you get practice if you're not in a Holacracy practicing organization already? You have to be creative. So some ways you can shadow a certified Holacracy coach. go on the COP, you can find some. You can offer to help a coach with an adoption. You can coach at the Holacracy practitioner trainings. This is another awesome way to get practice. And you're under the guidance of even more experienced coaches. So they will coach you while you're coaching a newer group of practitioners. Some people I've seen have recorded their meetings, put them up on the COP and asked for feedback. There's a peer coaching group on the community of practice. And be creative, figure out other ways. There's a lot of people with expertise out there in the community, and so you might have to come up with some creative ways to kind of tap that or offer to help where you can. So training and practice means you might be ready to take the assessments. Siobhan's going to talk to you a little bit more about what that exactly means. After you've earned the Certified Holacracy Coach credential, you can talk to licensing support, and she'll talk to you more about how to join the licensing program. So with that, over to you, Siobhan. Maybe you can tell us now a little bit more about what the licensing program is and how to join it.
Right, so Laura just mentioned licensing support. I'm licensing support. She asked me to be here today just to give a little bit more nuts and bolts overview of what would happen if one wanted to be a Holacracy consultant professionally. So to do that, you need to join the Holacracy licensing program. The licensing program exists essentially to ensure consistent and high quality Holacracy coaching and practices worldwide. So it ensures that consultants follow best practices, but it also helps make sure they have the support they need to do that. So in the licensing program, once you're in the licensing program, you're licensed to sell Holacracy related services. It can be facilitation, coaching for your clients, some certain amount of public workshops, things like that. There's also the support side. You have access then to this Holacracy provider ecosystem that Hans was talking about through different platforms, some that are exclusively for the providers to share best practices, share experiences, announce important things to the ecosystem. You will have access to support materials for your work with your clients and a certain visibility, so listed as a licensed Holacracy provider at least on the Holacracy One website, where we keep an official list of licensed providers, and then being able to publicize that yourself to your clients. So Laura mentioned assessments multiple times, so I'm going to get into what that actually means. There are several things that you would discuss with another role, licensing director, when you're ready to join the program. A lot of the things are fluid and things that you can speak about, just like when making any agreement. But there are a couple things that are the base requirements for joining the licensing program that I'll share with you now. One is that if you are in an organization, a consulting organization that has 3 or more people, you must be practicing Holacracy yourselves, which of course makes sense. If you're going to teach it, you need to be doing it yourselves. A smaller organization doesn't need to, simply because we do have individual single consultants, and they can't practice it obviously within their own organization if they are only one person. That's pretty straightforward. You adopt Holacracy in your organization, you practice, you become pros, and then you are able to share that with others. And this, of course, is, Laura was talking about practice. This is a great way to start that practice, is adopting within your own organization. The other base requirement for joining the licensing program, and this is where the assessments come in, is that at least one member of your team needs to be a certified Holacracy coach. This certification is earned by taking these assessments. There are 2 assessments. They are live assessments with assessors who are simulating holacracy type meetings. You're being assessed in this holacracy environment on your ability to facilitate, teach, and coach. And they're looking at your skill in theory and practice. So explaining the mechanics of holacracy, but also the ability to convey the why behind the rules. And as you can imagine, this requires a lot of preparation, practice, all the things that Laura was talking about, to be really versed in both the theory side and the practice side, to get this certification. And I would leave it that's really the base overview. I would leave it at that. And I think Laura would take it forward into a Q&A, and that'll probably unearth some other details that people are thinking about.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Siobhan. She's been administering this program for a long time and is like the expert in all of the nitty-gritty details. Thank you. Yeah, lots of questions are coming in. Many of these are for you, Hans. Let's see here. Okay, so one question is, are any of your implementations done 100% remotely? Or are you visiting people and organizations in person?
Yeah, we do remote implementations. I guess the ones we did mostly, we try to be really on site, really at least once or twice or maybe 3 times, and do the remote work, the rest remotely. Yeah, so doing things remote is doing meetings remote works very fine. But really implementation work, really coaching remotely is a bit harder. So we are really critical about this, and also the expectations with clients. We are working. We try to work in this way, but it can be done. We prefer on the spot, but it can be done in sort of a mixed way. So that's at least our experience.
Makes sense. Oh, another really interesting question. So one person is asking if there are any prerequisites that need to be met before implementing holacracy in an organization.
Wow, prerequisites, yeah. So what needs to be in place, basically? Is that a question?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, so what comes to mind right now, what I really liked was during the last Holacracy Forum. So once a year, practitioners from all around the world they gather to change experiences. And there was one talk of Mike Lee. Mike Lee did a very interesting research. So it's our just first figures, but what one of the highlights of what he found out in this first research was that psychological safety is very important for doing self-organization, especially with holacracy. So his statement was, what he found out was that if there's no psychological safety at the moment when you begin, it will be very, very hard to implement self-organization with holacracy. Moreover, it maybe even causes more damage. That was one of the things he said. And although it are one of the first findings there were, it kind of made sense to me. That once you want to start doing this, you can start doing, try to create a safety, of course, with the process, and it helps, of course. But as long as people do not feel free to speak, even though the system and the process is there, it's really hard to work tension-based and to really help people start following the tension and take entrepreneurship. So that is one of the prerequisites.
Do you do any work with that before before deciding to go in and do an adoption?
Yeah, that's yes, we try to, of course. So one of the first things our sales role does is try to see if there's fit. And in these first conversations, we try to somehow have the conversations to find out if these kinds of prerequisites are basically there. And based on the time we do that, we get more experience it, and I think we are better able to see if there's really fit for an organization or not. But it's not always successful. You did not always did a good assessment at the beginning. There are always, but you get a hang of it. So we developed, of course, criteria which grew over the last years, which of these kind of criteria which really needs to be in place to really start with this.
Oh, interesting. So you'll kind of go in as you're interviewing them also to be your client and ask them a series of questions.
Yeah. So not just work for and with everybody who wants to start with Holacracy. So the fit has to be the client has to have a fit with us, but we also want to have a fit with the client and really feel is this really going to work? Yeah, that's very important for us.
That makes a lot of sense. Right, because on one level, it's, you are having a relationship over the course of this.
Exactly.
Thing,
yeah.
So you have to make sure that there's fit on both sides. So more questions are coming in. Lots of them. Let's see here. Okay, how does your typical work project look like? I think that's like, the way that I was reading this is like, what is your typical day-to-day? Or what is your project work?
So what does the working day look like?
That's
okay, nice. Yeah. What would we, let's focus on the first part. So once we start working with our clients who start adopting Holacracy, so in the first phase, we really focus on the mechanics. So we really coach mostly in meetings. So we join the meetings. So in the first meetings, I as a coach model. So I do the first facilitation, and then afterwards the chosen facilitator takes over. I'm getting more in a sort of observation modus. So basically, what does my day look like? If I'm at a client where we support more circles, it's a very busy day. So I start early in the morning, joining 1 or 2 meetings from a circle, coaching them, giving them feedback, moving on to the next circle. And then at the end of the day, mostly I reflect. So I look at all the things I saw that day, and then I decide whether I want to send them some handouts or some articles to read, or maybe we'll take back to the next meeting. So basically, what does the day look like? It's a lot of meetings, and try to see where every circle is in the meantime. And if I'm at an organization when there's only one circle, I have more time. Then I also have a lot of time to do some personal coaching around it, or some extra workshops for key roles. So it's all basically, especially in the beginning, we really plan. So there's really a structure, in a rhythm in how they move towards self-sufficiency. So that's how we call it. We want to bring them to self-sufficiency, which means that they can start doing it on their own. So they're not masters yet. They're not, but they can start doing the circles on their own, and being self-supporting and try to follow their own intentions.
And how long does it take, given this method, for that to happen generally?
Yeah, so in our approach, we are with a circle for about 4 to 5 months, basically. Mm-hmm. And what's in there is we support around 7 governance meetings, 7 tactical meetings. We do the workshops in between. We do coaching. We do Q&As. But most circles, I am in the beginning, mostly every week, basically, and then during this month, so I'm getting, I'm once off, and they're doing it themselves. And after 4 till 5 months, we do a big evaluation. So how, what were the expectations up front? Where are we now? What are the biggest questions? And really try to gear them up to do it themselves for a while. And I also tell them at a point, no, Hans, please stay, or Energize, please stay. Then we say no, just do it on your own for a while. Yeah, just do it, and just feel like we do. And get back to us once you really feel what the biggest tensions are. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. And I assume that approach works relatively well.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, it works well. More from the perspective of Energized, I think what really can learn to do better is to, because when you're away as a coach, it's really, and you are not there, it's really hard to really have a good sense of what's really going on. People reaching out to you, roles reaching out to you. So it's also more difficult for us. Hey, how can we take it to the next step? What's the next level? I guess that's really a learning curve also for Energize to be able, after that really intensive period, to stay engaged and to still care, and being able to call them, hey, how are you? That's one of the challenges of Energized, of really helping clients also in the next phases.
Mm-hmm.
We're really eager to get better at it. Yeah.
Thanks. Siobhan, this might be a question for you. This is from Sam. He's wondering if there's any standard content produced by H1 for trainers or coaches or licensees. And then if so, like, how much can somebody add or modify it? Thinking about, like,
so I can definitely answer the first part of that question. Yes, there's support materials for providers, really working on aligning with that purpose of supporting the quality standards, maintaining quality standards. So program outlines, presentation outlines, templates for agreements with clients, etc. As far as I understand, and I think Hans might be able to speak more to this, but one cannot modify Holacracy itself. One needs to stay aligned with the Holacracy Constitution when offering Holacracy consulting to clients and claiming that you are teaching Holacracy. However, I know in the provider ecosystem, there are many complementary systems that are being developed and brought into clients, like Hans had talked about, complementary people or legal systems that maybe are not addressed by Holacracy, because it is, as I generally call it when explaining, it is an operating system for the business side, but does not address all of those elements. I don't know if you want to add anything, Hans.
That really makes sense to me. That's really where we are. So really personal note for me. So I shared with you earlier that we do a lot of Holacracy work, and we also help people in self-organization, maybe using other methods, or also organizations who just mix everything up and just take it one step at a time without any idea where they want to go. So that's also some environments where I work in. And what really helps me personally is that somehow I'm always personally are drawn back to Holacracy. So Holacracy wasn't invented with one giant blow. It was developed by Brian Robertson and an ecosystem through all these years. And to me, everything in Holacracy makes sense. It makes sense why you have a constitution. It makes sense why you want to work with the constitution, and you also start learning when you work with a system, for example, when there's no constitution. So and also what's nice now in my experience that I also help clients who do not do Holacracy, but they work tension based, and every time you see all these new things pop up, and I'm saying, hey, yeah, this is why Holacracy has blah blah blah, and that really helps me also in my consulting work to really help organization pointing out why this could be a good idea to adopt Holacracy, and why Holacracy does not address people, and that for people that you also have choices on how to address it, just like you have choices on how you want to address self-organization. Holacracy is a choice you can make, and it's a choice I made. And that's why I like to learn other people also why I like it, and why I think it's you can solve a lot of tensions, a lot of big problems which are out there in a lot of organizations, and how you can solve them with Holacracy. Yeah, so that's really a personal note from my side. I don't know if it answers your question, Sobian. Maybe I got off a little bit, but help me out if I missed something.
And here's one that is sort of related to materials and structure. Jonathan's wondering if you could share the structure for attaining self-sufficiency. And I'm not sure, that's kind of a big question. I'm not sure if you mean like specific documents, or if you mean just sort of the theoretical.
Yeah, so I can share a bit on that. So what we did, basically, we developed some, like you say, if I work from my old training background, so we developed some learning goals. So what kind of behavior do we want to see after these 5 months? What do I want to see from the facilitators, for example? What do I want to see from secretaries? But also, what do I want to see from a circle member? So we kind of made all these criteria and learning goals, and basically what we do at the end, we just try to, just make some sort of an assessment and try to make an assessment what we see at that moment, and do we feel that they are self-sufficient enough to do this on their own. And our experience is that after these 4 or 5 months, and most circles will hit most of those checklist items and are free to just start learning them and doing it by just practicing it, because it's a practice. It's nothing less. It's a practice.
Thanks. And one last quick question, Siobhan, this might be for you. What's the difference between providers and licensees?
Nothing. They're just two terms that mean the same thing. It is called a licensing program because you are licensed to sell Holacracy services. But those organizations or individuals who have joined the licensing program are generally referred to as providers, that you're providing Holacracy services. So you're a licensed Holacracy provider. It's the same thing. A little confusing.
Thanks, Siobhan. And Hans, one last quick question for you. We got about a minute left. Again, Jonathan's wondering, how about upfront assessing the health of the organization before engaging? Do you have standard processes for doing that?
Sorry, can you rephrase it one more time for me, Laura? Sorry for that. About that.
Yeah,
I think
he means, how do you assess the health of an organization upfront before engaging them? Oh, specifically around like specific practices.
I don't know if I understand you correctly, but that's in the first talks. You really try to ask the why. So why do we have this conversation? What are the problems you're trying to solve? And if you are really referring to Holacracy, how do you think Holacracy can help you do that? And then of course also what other practices are in. Where are you right now with your rewarding system, your salary system? It's just some sort of, you try to get a view of where they are and why they want to do it. And that last question is the most important question. Why do you want to do it, and what do you think it will solve? So
a great starting place.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We're at time, everybody. Thank you so much, Hans, for coming, sharing a little bit about your story, your expertise, answering a lot of questions. Thank you so much, Siobhan, for being here and answering a lot of the nitty-gritty questions. And thank you, everybody, for showing up. We are all on the community of practice, so feel free to find us there and ask questions. Also, feel free to write in to us at Holacracy1, hello@Holacracy1. You can find us there. And we'll be sending a follow-up email also with basically a lot of this content in written format. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all. Have a good day.